There was a time when getting your first job didn't mean filling out an online application and waiting for an algorithm to call you back. It meant putting on your nicest shirt, walking into the mall, and asking to speak to the manager in person. For millions of American teenagers between the 1970s and the late 1990s, that walk through the food court led somewhere unforgettable. It led to a job at the mall. And for a few glorious decades, the mall wasn't just where teenagers spent their money. It was where they earned it. Picture a Saturday afternoon at the height of mall culture. Fluorescent lights humming over polished tile floors. The smell of Cinnabon drifting past a record store blasting the latest single. And tucked into every storefront from Spencer's to the Gap to the local shoe shop, a teenager folding shirts, working the register, or restocking shelves, proud to be wearing that little name tag for the very first time. This was more than a paycheck. This was a rite of passage. Before the mall became the default workplace for American youth, teenagers worked. Of course they did. They mowed lawns, delivered newspapers, babysat the neighborhood kids. But something changed when the enclosed shopping mall exploded across the suburban landscape in the 1960s and 70s. Suddenly there was a single climate-controlled building packed with dozens, sometimes hundreds, of retail storefronts, all needing workers who could show up after school, on weekends, and during the holiday rush. Teenagers were perfect for the job. They were cheap to hire, flexible with their hours, and didn't mind the entry-level pay because, let's be honest, the real prize wasn't the paycheck. It was the freedom. For a 16-year-old in 1985, a mall job meant something a lawn mowing gig never could. It meant your own spending money. It meant independence from your parents' wallet. It meant being surrounded by your friends, because chances are, your friends worked at the mall too. You'd clock out of your shift at the record store and walk 3 doors down to see your buddy working the pretzel stand. You'd take your break together, splitting a soft pretzel, watching the crowd go by, feeling like you were part of something bigger than just a part-time job. The mall wasn't just an economy. It was a social world, and working there meant you had a permanent seat at the table. Think about the sheer variety of jobs available under one roof. You could fold sweaters at the Gap, sell records at Sam Goody, scoop ice cream at Baskin-Robbins, work the ride at the indoor amusement area if your mall had one, or stand behind the counter at a shoe store convincing customers that yes, those high tops really were the ones everyone was wearing. Department store anchors like Sears or J.C. Penney hired teens by the dozens for stock work and cashiering. Specialty shops like Spencer's or Hot Topic gave you a little more personality to work with, a chance to dress the part and lean into the store's vibe. Whatever your interests, there was probably a storefront that matched them, and that meant your first job could actually feel like an extension of who you were, not just a way to kill time until summer ended. And then there was the training. Managers actually trained you, often for days, sometimes weeks, teaching you how to fold a shirt the company way, how to operate a manual cash register, how to handle a difficult customer with a smile even when you wanted to scream. These weren't just throwaway skills. They were the first lessons in responsibility that an entire generation carried with them into adulthood. Ask anyone who worked retail as a teenager in the 80s or 90s, and they'll tell you stories about commission structures, about employee discounts that felt like striking gold, about holiday rushes so chaotic you could barely see the floor beneath the wrapping paper. These jobs built character, whether the teenagers working them realized it at the time or not, but the mall job phenomenon wasn't only about money or skills. It was about belonging to a specific American moment. The 1980s and 90s mall was practically its own ecosystem, with the food court as its town square and the arcade as its watering hole. Teenagers who worked there got an insider's pass to that world. They knew which security guard would look the other way if you took an extra long break. They knew the secret back hallways connecting the stores. They knew which manager would let you swap shifts without a fight. There was a camaraderie among mall employees that crossed store lines, a shared understanding that you were all part of the same strange, fluorescent-lit universe, clocking in and out together, day after day, season after season. For many, the mall job became a defining piece of teenage identity. You weren't just a kid anymore. You were the kid who worked at the music store, the one who could get you a deal on the new cassette everyone wanted. You were the one who knew which jeans were about to go on sale, because you'd seen the markdown sheet before anyone else. That kind of social currency mattered. It mattered a lot. But like every great American institution, the mall job era couldn't last forever. By the late 1990s and into the 2000s, cracks began to show. Online shopping started chipping away at foot traffic. Big box stores on the outskirts of town offered lower prices and pulled customers away from the enclosed mall model. And then came the slow, steady decline of the shopping mall itself, as anchor stores shuttered one by one, as parking lots that once overflowed during the holidays sat half empty, as entire wings of once thriving malls went dark. With the malls in decline, the jobs declined too. Fewer storefronts meant fewer positions for teenagers to fill. The rise of e-commerce meant warehouses needed workers more than storefronts did, and warehouse work simply didn't offer the same kind of social experience a mall job once did. There was no food court camaraderie in a distribution center. No friend 3 doors down to share a pretzel with on break. The structure that had given an entire generation its first taste of independence quietly began to disappear, store by store, mall by mall, until what was once the default first job for American teenagers became, for many young people today, a workplace they've never even set foot inside. Walk through a half-empty mall today, past the shuttered storefronts and the echoing tile floors, and you can almost hear it. The faint hum of fluorescent lights. The ghost of a cash register ringing up a sale. The laughter of teenagers on their lunch break, comparing employee discounts, planning their weekend, feeling for the first time like they had a place in the world. It's a different time now. The jobs have moved, the malls have emptied, and an entire chapter of American teenage life has quietly closed its doors. But for those who lived it, who clocked in wearing a name tag for the very first time, that mall job wasn't just a paycheck. It was the beginning of growing up.